I just wanted to come out and make this because I think it's important, and I need to sort of get it off my chest, I guess. There may be a discussion at the end of the script here, so obviously stay around for that. If you even bother watching these, I don't know who watches these, to be honest. I feel like it's important to discuss anyway. The script. I'm not even sure how this came about, but it's absurd how prevalent it is. To think that inspired thought, which involved an idea I heard, could become this crazy. So some artist posted to r/gaming a few weeks ago, I think, about being requested to make weird art for someone. Requested, I think, or commissioned. But I think there are cases where commissions of this happen. But that got me thinking a while ago about something someone requested of me. It wasn't about art that I made, but what I usually make even, just to be clear. It was something else, but the idea was bizarre enough to turn me off filling requests, and especially ones of this nature. Now I'm a bit older and obviously wiser, I had a lot to think about here. I thought about the actual physical and mental harm of the request I was given at the time. And to be honest, I'd go back and change that to where I would make the request and support said weird person. What this is to say is, for all the fun we make of, say, nerds with braces, stereotypes of fetish lovers or scat fetishes, you name it, there's nothing inherently wrong with these. They're simply factors out of your control and you have to respect that. And there are definitely factors that aren't, that should be respected, but the point there is that some people control what they have and some don't. And those who don't obviously end up being the weird types, and that's what we need to accept. Even then, what's the issue? Just because something isn't within your preference, it doesn't make it wrong. You don't see gay people saying straight people are obviously wrong for being straight. And I admitted this with music. I hate for technical reasons, just to be clear, which is mainstream rap and pop. It's not wrong for you to listen to it, but to play it loudly and cause physical harm, that's wrong. It makes me wonder how many people get PTSD with it, to be honest. Because it is like loud, thumpy music that you can hear outside the car and hear nothing else. That's the point of it all, really. It's fine to be one of the odd ones out. Ironically, I am, because I'm a metalhead who loves jazz and happy electronic music. I'm also a guy who loves technology and fantasy at the same time, and just retro in general. I've always been it's just always been something that's interested me. I am aware that I make up a small portion of the population of my age range, which is 25 years old at the moment. Nobody's actually normal. Most people are weird based on preference and interests, so there can be no such thing as normal in that aspect. Average is what people mean when they refer to something being common. The line drawn is again physical and mental harm. Mental harm is debatable, I was thinking about this earlier. Off script here. I suppose it comes down to whether it scars you or not. And that's hard to find in like someone's scat fetish, which obviously doesn't affect you. But this is to say that someone's creativity that leads them to say two of the same characters kissing each other doesn't affect you. The idea is weird, but the creativity is there, and in the end, why does it matter? If you take issue with this, it's a big deal of nothing really. And off script again here. There are definitely people in the world who do weird things and can't control it. Again, but you have to accept them. Like, for example, someone who's severely cognitively disabled, and I like this example because it's wholesome. Someone who flaps their arms around to express joy and happiness. Like, sure, it's weird, but it's good, isn't it? There's someone's happy, experiencing joy, especially someone who probably like can't acknowledge the world that we can. It's just weird, and I could actually date someone like that, assuming I can't find any ethical quandaries with it. And obviously, so people can't exploit them, because I know that's the thing that I worry about a lot. It's kind of like, oh, they're vulnerable, but people are going to take advantage of that. And I don't want to be perpetuating the idea that, you know, you can't date someone because of X, but you can actually. You just need to not be exploitative. Anyway, that is what it means to be against the stigma of weirdness. That stigma is what creates unhappiness and likely depression. And just to throw into the pool of weirdness here, that I still have weird habits from childhood, although it's worse as an adult because of, I don't know, health issues. And as you can tell, I'm sort of asthmatic. I struggle to breathe a bit, but I still pick my nose and blow it because I have breathing issues. I'm a weirdo, but I'm proud of it. I don't care. It's not causing anyone harm as far as I know. But there is probably some science to say that picking it is bad. Like, I do know that if you pick it the wrong way, it sort of pushes things upwards and blocks the nose. Yeah. So just be against the stigma of weird, really. There's different situations, and this reminds me of my childhood actually. When I was going to secondary school, I made friends with weird people, so I'm used to it actually. I don't know how to word it without it sounding personal, but I guess it doesn't matter. So one of them was, I think from Australia. He has some weird habits that are noticeable. It makes strange noises, and it wasn't necessarily on any sort of spectrum or disability or anything. But it was just him being him, I think. You know, that's weird, but it's fine. It doesn't harm anyone. And there's my other friend who's a big gamer. And he was just into lots of things, and his family was fucking terrible, I think. I think they were right-leaning, which is a problem. Somehow, like, they're a poor family and they're right-leaning. Anyway, this guy, my friend, he was into My Little Pony. This was like a few years after I'd known him. You know, it's like, people can watch whatever they want. What's the problem with someone watching My Little Pony? And he became a fan of it. He claimed himself a pony and he made fan art of it. It was also the kind of guy who's like extremely violent as well. Like, that's the weird thing. It's just a weird personality that makes him so unique and honestly incredible, considering that. There's just no problem with it. And of course, people in school who knew about it took issue with it. Eventually, the Australian guy that I knew, he was into it as well. I was the only one who wasn't, and that was mainly because of my distaste in art style, but I've grown to get used to that actually. I've watched all the 3 big Disney shows that are good. So yeah. But, yeah, that's an interesting thing. It doesn't matter who is into My Little Pony, because it's not harming anyone. Like, if he likes it, what's the problem? But he's not asking you to like it. I think that's very different. There's another thing I was going to say. But yeah, I watched the first episode of My Little Pony. interesting story actually. Because I've known so many people who watch it, and actually there are surprisingly vegans who are bronies as well, although apparently they don't call each other bronies anymore. So I don't know what you call My Little Pony fans, other than fans of it, I guess. So I've watched the first episode to see what it's like, if I could get hooked into it. Because it doesn't seem like a troll, to be honest. It was fine. I couldn't really floor it, except for the fact that I'm more interested in action, and have more of a bias towards that. Also, Fluttershy is my spirit animal, I think. But, yeah. I couldn't get into it, and that's fine. I still respect people who do like it, and are just very dedicated to it, I guess. It's also going into things like queerness and LGBTQ and stuff, but there's no such thing as gender roles. Like, if I can watch that and not feel like, I don't know how you describe cringe in a personal feeling way. Like, I just didn't cringe all that much during it, like I thought I would, even though there were cringe parts. But nothing really made me too uncomfortable. And actually, it's probably a really good first episode because it sets a lot of boundaries and stuff. The boundaries are not that, I forgot the word. Foundations? I think that's it, because they introduced a bunch of characters and a story plot. Yeah. I immediately fell in love with Fluttershy, as you can tell. I think that's it on this topic though. Just shut up and accept people who just are not like you. You're weird. As long as they're not harming anyone. Which is why you can criticise people for obviously harming others. But you have no foundation for even criticising someone without explaining how it's hurting someone. And it's a bit like when people criticise vegans. You need to provide strong evidence of what they're doing that's harmful. Like 99% of the time, nobody does. So your argument fails, you can't convince a vegan to go back to eating meat. But you've just lost. And that's because you can't accept them, and you can't accept that they're right. You just need to learn, and that's what I've learned in my short time of being alive. You just need to be wiser to things, know where you're wrong, and be honest about it. Like I said earlier, I could have made fan art for someone weird and been against the stigma. It reminds me of something else that happened. So, I won't say where it was, but someone posted something about, I think it was an article actually, like the NHS funding like staff to learn how to accept trans men who are pregnant. I think it was a post that was mocking them. I'm not sure what trans men I mean, but I only read the title. It was just shared to my feed, and it just sort of annoyed me that someone in the comments was like, "Oh, these people are mentally ill." Are you fucking kidding me? Do you even know anything about trans people? Because if you're calling them mentally ill, you clearly have no clue what a trans person is. Even who they are. Like, immediately you forfeit any sort of reasoning, and you become bigoted because of that. It doesn't matter if you're left-leaning or not. Like, you're still just bigoted there. That's the thing, there's no issue with a trans man getting pregnant. But it's just something that you've forced. Like, you have this idea that, I don't know, trans men have to be men, although they don't have to. Like, actually, a utopian idea is that men could get pregnant as well. Like, think about it. It's like you can experience childbirth and, well, how beautiful it is when you have a child, even not necessarily like giving birth, because obviously that fucking hurts, and there's also processes that complicate it. The point there is that it's just fine to be weird because it's not harming anyone. And sure, it will harm the child, maybe, if people knew about it. But there's nothing wrong with the thing that's actually happening, which is a trans man getting pregnant. The bigger problem here, which the idiot comment only briefly touched on, was the NHS funding this. Like, this isn't what needs funding. As someone who's been, like, I can't get healthcare in the UK with the NHS. There's obviously things that need funding more than this, unfortunately. That's just the harsh reality of it. And sometimes you just have to throw things under the rug and hope they stay. Because there are other things that are far bigger and far worse. That's horrible to say, because I wouldn't want to be a trans person in today's world, to be honest. And I just don't know how you deal with, like, life as it is when healthcare fails. For some reason, some people can do that, but it must be like a survival of the fittest thing, which is inherently written in nature, unfortunately. It's also why I sort of refuse to do activism in real life, because I'm a minimal verbal autist, and that will be used against me, and eventually I'll just fucking kill myself because I can't take it. I can't speak, and for some reason people don't recognise it, and again it ties into the issue of being weird. I can't control that, I can't speak much. In the end, I think, and this is something I forgot to mention, the bloody script. It's your problem if you can't accept something that isn't harming you. Like, it's just your problem. And, you know, what's the problem with the people here criticising the trans man, the people criticising my friends who are bronies? It's your problem. Like, what are they doing to you that requires, like, hatred or insults? Or just downright not accepting them or respecting them? Yeah, I think that's all I've got to say.